am an online business manager, also known as an OBM if you see those. So I can help businesses get off the ground, and I help businesses that are already in motion. What is an OBM and what do we do? An OBM is the person, the right-hand woman that's up here with the CEO, the founder, owner of a company. And an OBM is going to make sure, if you want to boil everything down, right? It's going to make sure that the right things get done at the right time by the deadlines, right? The correct way by the right people. Get all those in. Not having one person play all the hats anymore. We're going to come in and streamline everything and make sure we have processes in place and systems in place to make your life easier, make everything flow more smoothly, and really just bring ease back in your business. So I always like to start out with, what is it that you need to have in place? What do you need to do? Great question. So we'll start with the foundations in all of these that I go into, they're applicable for both small businesses and larger. So it doesn't matter where you are. All of these are things you need to have in place in order to be able to go. So we'll start with the bare basics. Foundation. Do you have a legal entity set up? Usually larger companies already have this, but I find a lot of smaller people kind of just get in, get going, and then they don't really know how to do it, what they're doing, and they're, as far as like the legal aspect is concerned. So they're already making money, so they keep going. Get an entity in place so you can be protected legally and financially if something were to happen. With that, is there depending on what service you offer, you may need a specific type of insurance for your company. So make sure you have all those. Intellectual property, right? Your trademark for your logo, your name. If you have anything that needs to be copyrighted, see what you have and get that stuff trademarked already. So you don't want to put all of your time and energy into building up your brand, and the name that you chose for your company was already used by somebody else. A trademark is going to protect it for you and what you're using it for. So you want to make sure that you have that taken care of so that nobody else can come down the line and say, hey, I've been using this name already, you can't use it anymore, and you have to rebrand. That happens. Same thing for your logo. So it protects you in that, nobody else can take your logo or something that's too close to it and, spin off, take your clients if they don't realize that it's not you. But also somebody can't come at you and say, hey, this is mine. I've already been using it because this is trademarked. You have this already. So trademark is going to protect you legally with using it. However, there is that caveat, right? That with the USPTO, the United States Patent and Trademark Office, they have different what's called classes. They're categories of what it is that you're doing. So different types of services, different types of goods. There are a lot of different categories. And so whichever ones you fall into are the ones you can file in. And those specific categories are what you would be protected in. And I saw a question here, legal entity. So having an LLC set up, so a limited liability company, or having an S Corp. For larger companies, sometimes they might want to have a C Corp. So those are different ones that we can get into down the line. But the whole idea is that when you have this up, you need to have a legal entity set up correctly. That way, should something happen, somebody's trying to either sue the company or open up a complaint for anything under the sun, only the entity is at stake. And when I say that, it's a limited liability company. It limits your liability. You can only go after what's in the company. If you don't have that in place, they can come after your personal savings. They can come after your house. They can come after your car, whatever that monetary value is that they're seeking. That's why you want to have an LLC in place or an S Corp, depending on what it is that you're doing. So make sure you have that. And then, you're welcome, Tonya. And then another thing that may sound like an obvious, but some people really don't take the time to do this, is what is the vision you have for your company? What is the mission you want to go after? What are your goals? Where are you wanting to go? And I say this and an answer of, I just want to make money. Okay, good. We all want to make money. How do you want to do it? Where do you want to go? The reason that you want to have this out, several reasons, right? If you don't know exactly where you want to go, you're not going to get there. You're going to have a roadmap taking you all over the states. I'm in North Carolina. I can drive to California. I go straight through, or I can go all up and take forever getting there. So having a clear end goal of what is it you're wanting to do, but also what it is that you want your company to embody and have that vision for it. That plays into the people that you attract to work for you, as well as the clients that you're attracting. So if you don't have, your vision and everything, and your mission, your values, everything put out there, then how are you going to expect people who work for you to uphold your mission, to uphold your values, right? You want whoever it is you bring in your team to speak your brand language, to provide the level of service, even if it's a product-based company, you want somebody to be able to embody what you're doing through your company. And nobody can do that if they don't know what it is. Similarly, who is your target audience? Who are you wanting to attract to work with you? If you don't put out what your values are, what your mission is, what it is that you're doing, who are you taking? Are you just taking anybody off the streets? Anybody who's going to hand you money? Okay. That's not going to be as easy as it might sound, because that opens up a can of worms for headaches down the line. So if you want to have the ideal person come in through your door, you need to speak their language. You need to put out who you are, what you're doing, because what you put out is what you attract. That goes for your workers, that goes for the clients you're bringing in. And having this, having the vision, having the mission, having everything you want to go, that's how you can build your business plan. Because again, if you don't know what it is that you're wanting to go, then how are you going to get there? I see a question, what's the difference between an LLC and an LTD? Okay, good question. They're actually the same thing. Whenever you form an LLC, you have the option to choose a whole different variety of letters after your name. So you can spell out, like mine's Virtual Now, LLC. That is mine with a comma in there. I could have chosen to do spelled out limited liability company. I could have spelled out LTD, and I could spell it limited. There's a whole different, like almost 12 options. There are a lot of different options, but they're all saying the same thing, Valerie. They're just saying that you are an LLC. You just get to choose the letters you put behind it. Good question. So going back to having your business plan in place, that helps you say, if you know where you're going, you can spell out, these are the steps we're going to get into. And those are the things that OBM helps you with, right? We see where are you at, where do you want to go? And that's how we can build the roadmap to get there. These are all the milestones we're going to hit. These are all the things we need to do in order to accomplish this goal. Depending on what that goal is, maybe it's a year out, 9 months out, 6 months, 3 months, but we need to know what this end goal is so that we can build everything to get us there and have the KPIs, the metrics there that show us, are we on target or are we not? So that's really the importance of having that mission, the vision, the values, because that's going to help us figure out where it is that you want to go. And then another thing that is very helpful to have, and again, this goes to small businesses, large businesses, and it may sound asinine, but these are things, I've worked with small and global companies, and these are things that not everybody has in place, because you're just kind of winging it and you're going and it's kind of working out. So why are we going to stop to fix it now if it's working? I tear off the Band-Aid. At least I pulled off on 2 when I count to 3, so it's not as bad. And I do it with a smile. But you want to have even just like all of your admin in place. So does everyone who's working for you have the tools they need to fulfill the tasks you give them? Where are your passwords, for example? If you have them on a piece of paper here, all right, that'll be good for you. But what happens if your new puppy chews it up, or your partner's helping you clean that gets recycled? Okay, no. Put all of your passwords in a password management system. I like to use LastPass. That's very secure. It's very easy to share with people. You can allow, like, you can set settings to say who can see the passwords versus just use it to log into something. So you can limit what people see. And that way you can store credit card information in there. You can store everything in there. It keeps everything a lot more secure and shareable so that people can do their jobs without being hung up. I can't update the website because I don't have the login for it. Okay, let me dig through my emails, find it, see if they can forward it. Having everything in a central place. And then with that, regularly backing up files, your CRM, so your client relationship manager tools, your software for that. And then even on that, looking at where are you keeping your client files, making sure that we have an organized system. You can use Google Drive, you can use Dropbox, you can be using any type of CRM that's out there, but having it in an organized fashion that makes sense to you, but makes sense to everyone who's supposed to be working with it. So again, that comes back to having a process in place for how are they put in, how are they maintained, how are they updated, and who has access. That way, everyone's on the same page. If you need something, your team is able to get to it, and you're not having to run around trying to figure things out. And as such, talking about a team and having people help you, you've noticed that you can't do everything yourself. And if you do, then you're probably super exhausted, don't have time for anything, and then your quality of work is probably going to start slipping. You need to delegate. You absolutely need to delegate. You can have, different levels of people. You can have a VA come in to handle tasks that a virtual assistant can do. And I just saw a question, password management system, what do you use? I use LastPass. That's the name of the program, Tonya. So it installs in your browser so that you can share things. You can also install on your phone. That way you are not having to have passwords in an insecure area, and you don't have to worry about it getting hacked. If somebody gets into your email, or you don't ever want it just sitting around on a physical piece of paper somewhere. And okay, good. I've seen some people use that before. Good. It's called LastPass. LAST Pass, PASS, and it's phenomenal. So when you're looking at growing your team and delegating, it can be hard at first to release control, right? You've grown this business, you've nurtured it from the ground up. This is your baby. So how is anybody going to do this correctly? Are they going to be able to do this as well as you can? Let's back up real quick. If you're referring to your business as your baby, have you ever had childcare before? Have you ever had somebody help you change a diaper, feed your child? Do they go to school and somebody else educates them? So whenever you're thinking in those terms too, we get that, but that's why you need people who can educate your child, right, while you're trying to work, and help grow your business for the aspects that you don't know how to do, or you're not able to do to the fullest capacity because you're wearing all the other 17 hats. So delegate, delegate, delegate. What is it that you delegate though? I recommend a really simple way to figure out what you give somebody. Write out a list of all the things you have to do, and then rate them. Which ones do you love doing? You look forward to doing this. Which are the ones that, they're not your favorite, but you don't not enjoy them. You get along. And the other ones are like, oh, we have to do this one. They're a little further down. And then your fourth category, the things you hate to do. Sucks your energy. You loathe it. You hate doing that. On those down there, we're going to want to delegate those first and foremost. You need your energy, you need your mental capacity, and that bottom tier is actually going to take you longer than somebody else who doesn't hate it because of the sheer fact that you're trying to get yourself into doing it. So write those out, and you start with that bottom tier, get those out and we can look at how you delegate and get those out. After you have those, then you move up to the other tier of like, you don't really like doing it, but it's not the end of the world. Then you get that list delegated out next. But then, you have the other aspect of growing your team, bringing somebody in, right? So how do you do that? How do you set yourself up for success? So this also goes back to, attracting the right person. You want to make sure that you're extremely clear on what you expect, the values, who it is that you want to come in. You want them to support your mission. You want them to be excited about your business. So you need to get that message out first and foremost so people know about that. But then you need to be very clear on who does what, where, on which platform, how do they do it, and when are they doing it? So this goes back to that whole who, what, when, where, and why, right? We need to make it very clear on who does what, so nobody's stepping on toes accidentally. You're doing a shuffle. I thought you were going to, oh shoot, I thought you were going to do that. Okay, you don't want anything getting dropped on there. So be clear on the specific responsibilities that each person has. Then set up how are they going to do this. So this goes back to, if you've ever heard SOPs, that stands for Standard Operating Procedure, or procedure documents, whatever name you want to give them. We'll call them SOPs in here to make it fast. But that goes back to, that does the how. That's going to explain who is responsible for this task. This is the prerequisites that they need. So the passwords they need, anything they need in order to finish this task, to carry out these responsibilities. And then, so it'll say who, what are they doing, what platforms are they doing it, what are the prerequisites, and then how. And then you can do that with a list. You can do that with a list and screenshots. You can also do a screen recording too to go with it. I like to cover all my bases depending on who is, familiar with a platform or not. That way, when you're bringing somebody on, you're not going to have all the time to sit down with them and hold their hand. That's why you have somebody like your OBM create that. And then you can say, hey, I need you to update this client file in the CRM. Okay, so we can either hear crickets, you can see who can, twiddle their thumbs the most, or you can direct them to the SOP for that. Oh, this is the login. Okay, I know that I have the credentials for this. All right, this is how I find it. I'm going to see screenshots of you click here, you go there, you do this. And then you can look at the screen recording of how to do that. So you're doing it once, and then you're able to repeat this process over and over and over. So you need to have that so that you're not spinning your wheels and spending your time doing things that you don't need to be doing more than once. If you're doing something that is repeatable, and you're doing it more than once, you need to have an SOP in place for it. I'm sure this is very, will resonate with a lot of you, is whenever you bring somebody in, there's so much in your head. How do you even, oh no, we need to talk about that. Gosh, yeah, no, don't forget, we need to get that one in too. No. Your OBM is going to be coming in and doing that brain dump with you, because it is not feasible for you to sit down with each new person and do a brain dump time after time after time. Time is money, right? Energy is money. Your mindset is money. So do it once with your OBM who can bring all of this out of your head, put it into paper, got that one done. Got that one done. Bada boom, bada bing, it's in there. When somebody needs it, you know exactly where to go. They know exactly where to go, and they know how to complete that task. There we go. And then, so in that, nobody can really meet your expectations if they don't know what they are. So this goes back to being clear on what the role entails, what all they're supposed to be doing, because nobody can read your mind. If we did, we would have would have much different world right now, or in general. So be clear with the expectations so that people can meet them. And then if you don't have this in place and you are just expecting people to come in, hopefully figure it out, but you're busy, so you're not able to teach them how to do this, you're going to see a high turnover rate, money out the door. You're going to see a lot of frustration, between you because it's not getting done properly, between them because you're not giving me what I need. And that's taking focus away from the important things, money out the door. That's also going to cause for unnecessary sit downs to see what happened, where can we bridge the gap, and figuring this out and doing a brain dump again with each person. That's money out the door. Do the brain dump once with an OBM, get this documented so that when somebody comes in, they know where to look for this, they know what their job responsibilities are, they know what's expected of them, and because they support your mission, your values, you've done a whole screening on them, they're the person that's going to come in and get this done. If they have any questions, they have the SOPs. If there are any nuances off of there, then they can raise your hand and we can take it from there. But that saves a lot of time, which again saves a lot of money. And when we're also talking about team, we also need to talk about how to manage your team. And what are the communication expectations, right? Does everybody have their contact information so that they can reach out to so-and-so if you're not available, or to even collaborate on a task that you've given somebody? So you want to know, what is your preferred method for you? What is the preferred method with clients, right? So now we're going to talk internally real quick, and then we're going to talk externally, because those are two different standards, internally versus client facing. And again, if you don't lay these out, then you don't have a leg to stand on whenever you're telling somebody, hey, you messed up, because did they, right? So one of the things you want to get up is communication, especially since we're all virtual, right? You're not going to be able to walk over their house in another state and be like, hey, did you get my email? No. So, so this is where you say, ask for an acknowledgement. If you were to email them or text them, ask for an acknowledgement, whether it's an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours for an email, right? And an acknowledgement, even if they don't have the task done or they don't know the answer, an acknowledgement is saying, hey, I saw that, I can't get to it right now, but I see it, it's on my docket, I can respond at this time. That's an acknowledgement. That lets me know you saw my email, you've got this, and we're good to go. But whether it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is that you want to set, it needs to make sense for your company and how you run things. If you were to text them, what is the expectation for a response for a text? Keeping in mind, are they in meetings? What are their responsibilities? Are they part-time? When are they available to you? When are they not? So this goes back to, again, what works best for your company and who you have working with you. But then sit down and find out what is reasonable response time. And again, a text could be a response of saying, hey, saw that, I'll get to it. Any sign of life, right? When do you want them to call you back? If you have to talk on the phone to explain something, but they don't answer, right? So having all of those set in place so that you're set up for success. Hey, we had agreed on a response time of 2 hours, and it's been 4. Is everything okay? That gives you room to check in, as opposed to have never set this expectation, don't have anything. You're like, hey, where are you at? And they're like, I'm over here. I've been, nose to the grindstone. I'm not checking emails. Again, just get on the same page and have these expectations set and agreed upon so that everyone has the same baseline to go off of. It saves frustration, saves necessary sit downs, it saves a high turnover rate, saves you money. Another thing you want to get in line is having a backup for a person and perhaps a backup for the backup, right? So, okay, so Tonya usually takes care of X, Y, and Z, but she's out sick today. Who's coming in? Okay, so Ashley is the one who does it if Tanya's not there. But Ashley's husband has COVID, her kid's really sick, she can't come in, she can't be doing this. All right, we need a third backup. Now, Tonya, if you have 3 people out, something's going on, whether it's karma or what. But at least have 3, a main person, a backup, and a backup for everything that you're doing. And that way, you're able to know who handles something, and you don't have to do the, looking, I thought you were going to do it. Oh, I thought you were, have it spelled out, have it clear. Everyone knows what's expected of them. If Tanya's out, then have somebody else, the next person in line knows they're second in line, knows this person's out, and they're going to slide right in. And then another thing, when we're talking about communication, we talked about the internal communication, right? What about external? client facing. Now you really, really want to make sure your customer service is top notch, right? So, but again, it goes back to what you want to do for your company, and then make sure everyone understands the expectation and everyone's going to rise up to meet them. So for an example, make sure before you close out at the end of the day, you've responded to everybody who's reached out to you. If it's a very active project, as opposed to somebody who popped in from 6 months ago saying, hey, out of nowhere, I need something. Of course, get back to them right that day. But if it's something that you're actively going back and forth with, get back to them within the hour, get back to them within 2 hours. Whatever it is that the expectation that you set, make sure your team knows that and upholds that. I was going to say withholds, but upholds that. And that goes back to phone calls, when are you going to be calling clients back? This also goes into branded language. What is branded language? Branded language goes back to the values that you have for your company and the brand, everything that you want to exude. So Chick-fil-A. Everyone's been through Chick-fil-A. What do they always say to you? My pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure, right? That's branded language. They have to say that. They say it as though it is their pleasure, but it's something they have to say. So on that, do you want, whenever you're talking, you have a team member speaking to somebody externally, how do you want them to communicate, right? So sometimes you can have a script for if you're talking to somebody they've never talked before, this is how you'd like them to introduce themselves. If you're talking to somebody, that you've been working with actively, this is, generally how you communicate with them. So you have a few different scripts, and of course you can tweak them, right? So it doesn't sound like a robot, but at least it's a guideline that you have. And then also, do you want them to speak in, we versus I? I can do that for you. Yep, I can look at that. Or we can do that for you. We can look at it. All those little details, all those come back to your branded language and how you want your company to interact with clients and how you want to be perceived. So all goes back to making sure you're clear on your mission, your values, and where you're going, making sure everyone you bring on is in line with that, and spelling out the expectations, spelling out really just everything you have for it. So that, I think I know I was trying to stay within half an hour. The last thing that I will close down with, right, is there could be a lot of confusion with when people hear me speak about what is a VA versus an OBM, because there are a lot of VAs that do high-level tasks. There are some OBMs, not everyone does things entirely the same. So I really like to give a good analogy of a VA versus an OBM. VA is a virtual assistant for anybody who doesn't know, and we already went over OBM as an online business manager. So a VAs make the world go round. Get yourself one, or talk to me if you need a recommendation. A VA is going to come to you every day and say, how can I help you today? What can I take off your plate? What can I do to make your life easier to support you? They're going to come ready to work, ready to go, and ask what you need. An OBM is not going to ask you what they're going to be doing today. They're not going to ask you what they can do today. They're going to tell you what to do, right? Because we went back and we did the business plan. We know the vision, we know the steps, we know what's happening. So we're going to tell you what we're doing today. We're going to tell you what's going to be happening this week, because we're the ones that created that, and we're the ones that's going to keep us on track. Keep us also protected from shiny object syndrome. Whoa, what if we did that? That looks really cool. Hey, I saw someone else do that. OBMs are not supposed to be yes ma'ams. They're supposed to say, I see that, I hear that, this is what we have, let's look at the priorities. What do we take out to fit this in, or do you want to move this down here, right? And having that pause and looking at everything as opposed to saying, yep, let's do it. Because, is it a matter of shiny object syndrome, or is it truly a let's shift focus, right? So that's where your OBM is going to pause, should have you pause and say, all right, let's look at the priorities first. and see, are we going to do this? And if so, what are we going to shift? Because we had this, and that doesn't mean you have to stick to this plan, it's in concrete. We just want to make sure that that we're not completely getting distracted for things that don't entirely matter, and that we're going through, and that you understand, if we do this, then we have to decide this out. Are you okay with that? You know, and having that conversation back and forth. And then whether you are, somebody asked a really great question that I love addressing is, you know, whether you're a large company or a one-person team, how do you work with an OBM? Well, several ways. So an OBM can be as involved as you need them to be, or as hands-off as you need them to be. So they can take a consulting role and tell you what to do, so do a DIY approach, or they can get in the trenches and roll up their sleeves and make things happen. So in that sense, you're in the driver's seat, but your OBM is going to make sure that we are staying on route, making sure things are done efficiently, and raising our hands when there's something, hey, this doesn't look like it's the most efficient way to do it. Can we talk about it? You know, kind of just make sure everything is golden. And having an OBM do all this stuff, having an OBM come in, get this structured, get this streamlined, allows you to take a vacation, take a step back, and put your phone down. This allows you to not have to worry if you're sick one day. Lay in bed, we got it covered. Why? Because we have the systems in place. We have the processes in place. We have everything in place. It doesn't need you to be there 24/7. And if that's how you want to live your life and your work life, great. But for those of us who want that balance, isn't that why we got online to begin with? So we can own our lives and be able to pick our kids up from school. There we go. I work only with online businesses. So there was one company that I did work with that they were half online and they did half the things in person. So this was actually, all of this is applicable to doing it online. And I've only met one client in person through all my years, because we're all virtual, and all my clients are virtual as well. So you can still do it even though you are entirely online. Lower tasks, right? And when I say lower, I mean like scheduling and things that are going to be in doing that, because an OBM is a much higher rate. I've seen VAs all across the board. So VAs charge anywhere from 15 an hour up to 40 an hour. So it really depends on their experience and what it is that you're having them do. And then an OBM will start at, they're at a whole range. So they could be anywhere from 60 upwards to 200, depending on what it is that they're doing for you. And that's why you want the OBM to be delegating all the tasks, because you wouldn't be paying somebody that rate to be, scheduling a phone call between you and somebody else, etc. So it ranges, it's a really large range. So that's why you want to, and I can actually put in content of things to interview your OBM for and kind of see what they're doing. Because no two people are alike, no two OBMs, no two VAs are alike. So for an OBM, you do need to, it is an investment on there that you're putting in. So that's why you would have the hours that an OBM would be doing in the month would be less than what the VA would be doing in the month. So that's why you need both. Sometimes OBMs have VAs that they can bring in to do that, but you're going to be looking at, it's like if you're thinking of a pyramid, excuse me, you're going to be having the bottom tier is where you have more of the time and the tasks in there. So the more of that's what you're going to be having your VA do, and then your OBM will be further up doing that. So you can be looking at $3,000 to $5,000 per month on the higher end. I am actually going to be launching very shortly a big surprise. I'm going to be unveiling it next week, but it is sharing an OBM, so you're not having to put in even the bottom of $3,000 a month, and you're going to be sharing an OBM with a couple people. It's going to be done in a group setting, but still catered to you in your business, and you're going to be paying a fraction of the cost to have a one-on-one. Some OBMs work in an hourly package, some of them work in defined packages. So it's really worth even just like sitting down and saying, all right, these are my needs, this is what's going on. And then they can quote you on, all right, this is what I would say we would do for that. This is how long it would take. This is what we'd split it up. And a lot of people, if you say, all right, this is my budget, then we can say, all right, this is what can feasibly be done within there, and go back and forth. So I will say, anytime you see a number that scares you, whether it's for a VA, anyone, say, this is what I can do, what can fit into here. If you're not fitting into like any packages or hourly things that somebody does, ask the question, go in. And 9 out of 10 times they can create a custom package for you. Now, some people don't, some people do. But that is something to, and I actually see a hand raised. But yeah, so you're looking at anywhere from, if you do an hourly for an OBM, anywhere from 60 up to 200. And then depending on how they work in a package versus however many hours a month. So answering a question without really answering the question, but that's the range you're looking at for an OBM versus what you're looking at for a VA. If I can interject, so many people are guilty of this, and you get to a point where you're at a self-imposed glass ceiling, bringing the people on. So I bring a ladder, safety goggles, and a sledgehammer, and we go right through that. But without getting the help, you're capped for income, because going back to the other question is, when you're starting out, when you can't get to that $3,000, there are companies that have come to me that can't get that. And so we work out something where I'm advising them and they're doing all these things. That will still to get to that package yet, because that's okay. _Naomi Carmen, my company name. And my Facebook group, which is a private group that we have these things going into, these business tips and free live trainings, is Virtual Vibes. And my website is freshly updated, almost, it's about to go live, and that is virtualnow.net. And that's where, when we get on down, so you can see where you're at, I don't bite too hard. So this is my passion. I can talk about business day in, day out, as applicable for the time that we're at. But so book a call and we can see where you're at, see where you need to go. And then I'm going to be honest with you with what you need versus what you don't. I want to serve my clients. And so I don't beat around the bush. I will let you know, but I'll say it with a smile. And and I really look forward to connecting with everyone.
That's good.
Different options to do it, right? Yes. So I offer those because there are people that need to be in the trenches and doing a lot, but they have the budget and they're at that income level, whether at multiple 6 figures or 7 already. And not everybody is at that revenue level. So that's why I'm going to meet you where you're at. And then, see what we can work out so that you can still get the genius that's in my brain, put it in your business, and that's going to get you up to a point where you're at multiple 6 figures, or even hitting it for the first time if you haven't already, but that all comes back to vision, mission, values, getting that business plan going. So let me clarify, actually, is the question about, a tax, are you asking about W-2 versus 1099? Or are you asking what program you do your financials in? Can you clarify? And I can speak on, both. Good question. Okay. So one of the daunting things that people think about when they're growing their team is, how do I bring on an employee? Okay, you don't have to. You can bring somebody on as a 1099 contractor. So you have a W-2, that is considered an employee, and you have a 1099 that's a contractor, independent contractor. They work differently. Well, as far as Uncle Sam is concerned, right? For a W-2, you're paying them, but you're paying part of the taxes that go to Uncle Sam, and then you're withholding the taxes for them, and and then they're getting their take home, and then you're filing that on behalf of them for a W-2. For a 1099, you're paying them the lump sum, and they are responsible for their taxes. The person actually has to pay a little bit more in tax because there is a required an employer pays part of a specific tax that now an independent contractor has to cover themselves. So an employee is a W-2, an independent contractor is what you call a 1099. And the reason they're called that is because that's the form you submit to the IRS and then to them every January by January 31st. That states how much you've paid them. For W-2, it's going to say how much there are more differences in there. An employee is a contractor you have a lot more control with, we do exactly, you have to wear this uniform, you have to show up between 9 and 2 and do all of this, you have to say my pleasure, you have to say this. So you do that with an employee. A contractor, although it can sound a little like, isn't that what you just said, Naomi? You have guidelines that a contractor will do, but you can say, hey, these are the hours that I'm needing help. Are you able to meet that? And they can say, yes, I'm able to meet that for you. A lot of times a 1099 contractor is what people bring on when they're growing their teams. They're not doing even larger companies. If you would believe it, a lot of people do independent contractors. Another difference is for W-2, you are providing some type of insurance, or they have that option, whereas at 1099, they don't have insurance through their employer. So it's a lot easier on the employer or on the company to have a 1099 contractor. However, that's actually a whole can of worms, and which I would recommend if it comes down to it, if you're really worried about being on the line with what's considered an employee versus a contractor. A lot of times a contractor will be fine, but if you're really worried about something, you can consult a business attorney and they can let you know kind of where that fine line is. But the majority of the time, a contractor will work for it. And then, as far as, how you pay somebody. So QuickBooks, yeah, that's very popular. There are so many different ways to pay people. So it really, you can do it via QuickBooks. You can do it, I think Zoho Books, there's Gusto, there's FreshBooks. So there's a whole list of things. I would say, in my experience, I've used a lot of them. I haven't found one to be super better than the other. They've all gotten people paid. They've all, you're looking also into integrations of what's going to be connected to your CRM, because usually that payment system is going to be what's shooting out invoices, get you paid from clients too. So they're just all different avenues to get to the same destination, and that is to get you paid from your clients and to get your team paid. So QuickBooks, I use QuickBooks. I love it. I've used FreshBooks. I've used Gusto. I have not personally used Zoho Books before, but they have that and it works. So if you have a system in place, do that. If it's working for you, do that. But in my experience, there hasn't been oh my gosh, stay away from this one. So if that helps with that, paid for each of the different taxes, because they're going to use that and plug it into their things when they do taxes. And then for a 1099, it's going to say this is the lump sum I paid you. Thanks so much, you guys.